It's December 23rd, 1982, in Honolulu, Hawaii. It's warm, in the sun, Hawaiian shirts are everywhere, and basketball is being played at Chaminade University, home of the Silver Swords, an NAIA school with fewer than 800 students. And they're taking on the number one team in the nation, led by a towering giant 7'4" Ralph Sampson, a guy that won the National Player of the Year 3 times. And the crazy thing is, this small NAIA school would go on to beat the number one school in the nation with the number one player in the nation right before Christmas. Join us today as we dive into this crazy upset that sounds like a holiday movie today on Daily Sports History. Welcome to Daily Sports History. I'm your guide, Ethan Reese, because I would love to go lose a basketball game in Honolulu just before Christmas. Okay, so 1982, everyone in basketball is watching Virginia. They have Ralph Sampson, who's considered hands down best player in the college. At the time, centers, especially tall centers, were thought to be unstoppable. He was 7'4", about the size of Wemby last year, who keeps growing crazily. But he was very similar to Wemby in how he looked, but he was more bulky and could play down low and was unstoppable. Even your regular 7-footers struggled to compete with him. And he would go on to be the number one pick without a doubt. And he had a good supporting cast. Rick Carlisle, future NBA championship coach, was on his team, along with Craig Robinson, who goes from playing basketball to being on The Office. Sorry. Not that Craig Robinson, it's a different Craig Robinson, but still a good player who would go on to coach at Oregon State later on in his career. They were 8-0 coming into this game. The year before, Virginia finished 5th in the country overall and made it all the way to the Final Four. They were a good team and picked by many to win the national championship. And they were going to Honolulu to play a NAIA school. Now, in case you don't know what NAIA is, they're an offshoot of the NCAA. They're not connected to the NCAA, but they do play sports just like the NCAA. They give out scholarships just like the NCAA. NAIA is somewhere between Division II and Division III. The best NAIA schools can face off against the best Division II schools. The worst NAIA schools can lose to some of the lower Division III schools. So it's a wide range, but they're generally not seen as competitive versus a Division I school. But you see this a lot happen in early seasons, especially in the first few games. They play these smaller schools, usually a local school around them. It's a warm-up game for these bigger schools. And the reason why they were playing Virginia is, well, why not get a trip to Honolulu just before Christmas? Virginia's like, it's cold here, let's go to Honolulu for Christmas. Who's going to say no to that? Now, Chaminade was a small school, under 800 students. They had no national exposure. They were a tiny campus, just located out of Honolulu, and most of their recruits were transferred. They had no player on their team over 6'8". Just a kind of idea, Chaminade did not have a marching band, no booster club, no national TV coverage, and getting tickets to the game was easy. The tickets were low. Only about 3,500 fans showed up. Most of them wanted to see Virginia, and it was about $5 a ticket. It was easy to go see. And this game wasn't supposed to be historic. This was supposed to be a blimp on the radar. No one knew it. The matchup was arranged the year before, as Virginia had already played 2 games in Japan, 1 game in Hawaii. They were traveling all over the place to play. And this was no national media there, just a few local reporters from Honolulu. What really gave Chaminade the advantage is that travel. Games in Japan, another game in Hawaii, like they were tired. They played 3 games in 5 days, all over the place, traveling everywhere. Ralph Sampson even said he was fatigued and had a slight cold. But they were the number one team in the nation, had an 8-0 record, and had already beat teams like Houston and Georgia by double digits. And both of those teams were ranked at the time. But vice versa, at Chaminade, most of their players were sunbathing on the beach that day, relaxing. So the tip-off happens, and of course, Virginia wins the tip-off because Ralph Sampson is huge. And Virginia opens the game just like every other game, inside scoring, but Chaminade immediately comes back, shooting some mid-range jumpers, sparking some energy. But Virginia would take the lead early, 6-2, but Chaminade would eventually rally back to come back and tie the game 10-10. Virginia was looking a little sluggish, tired, fatigued, like someone that had been traveling all over the place just before this game. Now, the Chaminade coach, Marv Loops, was a Hawaiian-born coach, was fiery energy, and believed deeply in his players, and if they played together, they could do anything. Now, he instructed his players not to try to contest things at the rim against Sampson because there was not much they could do. So what they were doing was focusing on mid-range shots, drive, and kick out to open shooters, really taking Sampson out of the defensive part of the game, which he dominated at the time. And they slowed the tempo down, forcing Virginia to also slow down, and played a 2-3 zone, which frustrated Sampson at the time, causing him to get double-teamed anytime he got an entry pass. And Chaminade played with poise. Their leading scorer, Tony Randolph, was poised, showing strong rebounding despite his height disadvantage as standing only 6'6". And they were able to also shoot three-pointers, which at the time was not standard, but NAIA had already adopted it. So they were playing at that arena, and three-pointers actually counted, which gave another advantage to a smaller team in Chaminade. So late in the first half, the game was actually tied 22-22, and Virginia would start to break away, getting up by 6, but Chaminade would bring it right back to be down just 2 at the halftime with a score of 38-36. And the crowd was in disbelief. They thought they were going to be blown out, but really, Chaminade was holding their own. Ralph Sampson did not look like his dominating self, which really made Virginia vulnerable. And Chaminade came out in the second half. They're like, we got nothing to lose. Let's throw it out on the line. So they come out early and fast and take the lead off a mid-range jumper made by Tony Randolph to take the lead 42-40. And the crowd erupts. They're so excited for this underdog. Virginia is stunned and starts committing turnover after turnover, playing tight, and can barely hit a brick wall. And this crowd shouts, "Let's go Swords, let's go Swords." And around with 10 minutes left in the second half, the game was tied 66. The game was tied at 56. When Chaminade came out and executed a 6-0 run, and the crowd's energy shifted to disbelief, cheering out of their minds. They thought, we actually have a chance to do this. Cheering on every possession, really making it a home court advantage for something that no one expected to happen. With 2 minutes left, Chaminade was up 73-70, and Virginia fouls Chaminade on a fast break. Fouls Tony Randolph, who hits both of his free throws, although Sampson comes back and makes a dunk on the other end, making it a 3-point game again. On the next possession, Chaminade gets fouled again and hits all their free throws, taking the lead back up to 5. Virginia misses a desperation 3, and the crowd is in disbelief. As the final seconds tick away, the final score is 77-2 Virginia. The number 1 team in the nation just lost to a small NAIA school, and no one can believe it. Sampson finished with just 12 points and 17 rebounds, looking far from dominant, while Chaminade was led by Tony Randolph, who had 19 points, and Rodriguez, who had 17. Students and local fans flooded the court. They were so excited to see this. Virginia was just stunned. They walked off the court in awe. Chaminade's coach, Marv Lopes, hugged his players one by one, just in awe and gratitude of what just happened. The reason why Chaminade was able to win was they shot over 50% from the field, making threes, and Virginia could not make a basket. They shot under 40%, and the slower pace that Chaminade played at really kept Virginia from getting into their offense. And it really set shockwaves across the nation. A David versus Goliath headline sent everywhere. But there was no coverage on this game. No national TV, no ESPN, really barely any press in attendance. Many editors that got this information thought Virginia beat Chaminade 77-72, but they were shocked to find out no, it was the other way around. It was later be known as the biggest upset in college basketball history. And Marv Lopes, the coach for Chaminade, said to the school president, "This is the greatest Christmas present Hawaii has ever gotten." Ralph Sampson after the game said, "They played well, we didn't. It happens." Head coach for Virginia, Terry Holland, shouldered the blame. Didn't blame stress of the travel or the fatigue. He just said they beat us fair and square. What's crazy is this actual upset led to the creation of the Maui Invitational Tournament held in 1984 for the first time, organizing high-level basketball games in Hawaii, and it became known as the miracle that built a tournament because it showed that fans in Hawaii wanted to see good basketball. And it's known as one of the best in-season tournaments in college basketball. And Chaminade would actually be the host of this tournament every year. And Chaminade would actually go on to join the NCAA and now are part of the Division II NCAA program. And Virginia would do fine on its own. That year they would lose in the Sweet 16, and Ralph Sampson would move on to the NBA, being the number 1 pick and future Hall of Famer. But Virginia basketball would find its way, as in years later they would finally win their very first national title in 2019 without any flashy 7'4" big men and without losing to any NAIA schools. But they do have their own championship now. And my question for you is, what do you think is the biggest upset in college basketball history? I want to thank you for listening to today's Daily Sports History. If you like this, please make sure you like and subscribe wherever you are so you do not miss a single episode. And we will see you on the next one.